My name is Sarah Jenkins. I'm 38 years old, and I'm an operations manager at Nexus Innovations. The air in the main conference room felt thick, heavy with unspoken anticipation. It was the annual Q1 all-hands meeting, but everyone knew what we were really there for, the bonus announcement. Mark Harrison, our CEO, stood at the podium, his smile wide but somehow brittle. He tapped an expensive-looking fountain pen against the microphone, a nervous habit I'd noticed over the years. Then he launched into a speech about market fluctuations, global headwinds, and the need for strategic reinvestment. My stomach tightened into a cold knot. When he finally got to the point, his words were a casual, almost apologetic dismissal. So, we'll be delaying our annual performance bonuses this year. We need to consolidate resources to ensure long-term stability and continued growth. He paused, letting the silence hang, then added, I know this isn't what anyone wanted to hear, but it's a necessary step. We're all in this together. My gaze drifted over the faces of my colleagues. The collective slump of shoulders, the quick, forced smiles meant to mask disappointment. I saw the light drain from their eyes, the dreams for new cars, down payments, or even just peace of mind evaporating. I kept my own expression carefully neutral, but inside, a quiet fury began to simmer. Mark might think we were all in this together, but I knew for a fact that his definition of together looked very different from ours. And I knew exactly what he was spending his consolidated resources on. He was about to learn that some surprises weren't meant to be gifts. To truly understand the weight of that moment, you need to know a little about Nexus Innovations. Mark Harrison founded the company 10 years ago, a plucky tech startup that promised innovation and a family-like culture. I joined 5 years in, drawn by the energy and the genuine sense of camaraderie. As operations manager, I was deeply involved in the day-to-day workings, the budgets, and the well-being of our 150 employees. We built something special, and for a long time, Mark was at the heart of it, a visionary who seemed to genuinely care. Our bonus structure was a point of pride. It wasn't just a token, it was a significant part of our compensation, typically around 10% of an employee's base salary. For many mid-level staff, that meant an $8,000 payout that they budgeted for, relied on, and earned through relentless dedication. Last year, the company had exceeded every target, and the Q4 reports I'd personally overseen showed healthy profits and robust projections for the coming year. There was no financial reason to delay those bonuses. None at all. But Mark had changed. The charismatic founder had slowly morphed into a detached CEO, more interested in appearances than the people who made his company run. The family culture had started to feel more like a well-managed facade. The lead-up to the bonus announcement had been filled with a palpable buzz. Everyone had plans. Sarah, one of our junior developers, was saving for her son's dental braces. Michael in marketing had been talking about finally replacing his ancient Honda Civic. I had planned to put the money towards a much-needed kitchen renovation. We'd all worked incredibly hard, pushing through long hours and tight deadlines to hit our Q4 targets. The numbers were undeniable, we'd exceeded our goals by a comfortable margin. The atmosphere in the office was electric with anticipation, a collective sense of accomplishment and impending reward. Then came Mark's first email, 2 weeks before the all-hands meeting. It was vague, hinting at unexpected market shifts and the need to reinvest in critical growth areas. A ripple of unease went through the office, but most people, still trusting in Mark's leadership, convinced themselves it was a temporary blip. He'd make it right, they thought. I, however, started digging. My role gave me access to the detailed Q4 financial reports, and what I saw didn't align with Mark's vague pronouncements. Revenue was up, expenses were controlled, and profit margins were solid. There was no unexpected shift that justified withholding bonuses. The numbers simply didn't lie. The whispers started subtly. I overheard 2 junior designers in the break room, scrolling through Instagram on their phones. Did you see Mark's pictures from Street Barts? One murmured. Looks like he's having a tough time with those market shifts. A few days later, my colleague, David, who sat near Mark's office, leaned over my cubicle. You know, I heard Mark on a call with an architect this morning, he said, lowering his voice. He was talking about the Hamptons place, going on about infinity pools and custom wine cellars. Sounded like a new build. His third one, apparently. The casualness of the comment hit me like a physical blow. A third home? Well, we were being told to tighten our belts. That detail mattered later. I started paying closer attention to every public mention of Mark. It didn't take long. A local business journal, which often covered prominent figures in the tech scene, ran a small article about high-end property transactions in the Hamptons. Tucked away in the piece was a mention of Mark Harrison, CEO of Nexus Innovations, having recently closed on a significant waterfront estate, described as a sprawling modern retreat. The article explicitly referred to it as his third major property acquisition. The timing, the cost, it all screamed in my face. This wasn't about market conditions. This was about Mark funding his lavish lifestyle directly from the pockets of his employees. The impact on my colleagues was immediate and devastating. Sarah, the junior developer, looked pale and withdrawn. Her son's dental work was expensive, and the bonus was going to cover a significant portion of it. Michael in marketing was openly frustrated, his plans for a new car now a distant dream. I saw him taking extra shifts driving for a ride-sharing app after work. Another colleague, a young couple who had been saving for a down payment on their first home, had their hopes completely dashed. The $8,000 wasn't just a number, it represented security, opportunity, and the tangible reward for their hard work. Seeing their faces, hearing their quiet despair, solidified my resolve. This wasn't just corporate greed, it was a betrayal of trust, a direct transfer of their hard-earned money into Mark's personal luxury. I recognized what was truly happening. Mark wasn't just delaying bonuses, he was actively reallocating funds that were earmarked for his employees' compensation to finance his own extravagant personal spending. The market conditions excuse was a convenient smokescreen, a lie designed to keep us compliant while he feathered his own nest. He was counting on our loyalty, our fear of losing our jobs, and our general reluctance to question authority. He saw us as interchangeable cogs, our financial stability secondary to his desire for a third home, a bigger boat, and more exclusive vacations. The corporate family was a fiction, and he was the only member who truly benefited. I couldn't stand by and watch my colleagues, who had poured their hearts into this company, be exploited like this. My preparation was meticulous. I started by compiling every piece of financial data I could ethically access, Nexus's Q4 and Q1 revenue reports, profit margins, and cash flow statements, all showing robust health. I cross-referenced these with our official bonus policy document, which clearly outlined the criteria for payouts, criteria that we had undoubtedly met. Then came the external evidence. I took screenshots of the Hamptons property article, highlighting the mention of Mark and his third major property acquisition. I found public records confirming the sale price, an astronomical sum. I also pulled up screenshots of his social media posts, carefully curated images of him on yachts, at exclusive resorts, and even one showing a blueprint with an infinity pool label, posted around the same time he sent that first vague email about market shifts. I compiled everything into a single, comprehensive PDF document, titled Nexus Innovations, a study in compensation disparity and executive prioritization. It was factual, unemotional, and irrefutable. I didn't include any personal anecdotes or emotional appeals. Just the numbers, the policy, and the stark contrast of Mark's public spending against our withheld bonuses. The final piece of the puzzle was deciding how to deliver the surprise. I knew sending it only to HR or even the board might result in it being quietly swept under the rug. It needed to be seen, widely. The morning I decided to act, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. My hands were steady, my mind clear. I opened my corporate email, carefully attaching the meticulously compiled PDF. The subject line I chose was simple and professional: transparency and employee compensation at Nexus Innovations. For the recipients, I didn't hold back. I addressed it to the entire company, every single employee, from the newest intern to the most senior executive. Then, I added the email addresses of the board of directors, key investors I knew from public filings, and 2 industry journalists I had professional contacts with, known for their integrity and willingness to report on corporate ethics. I reviewed the email one last time, checking for any errors, any emotional language. It was perfect. Cold, hard facts. I took a deep breath, my finger hovering over the send button. This was it. I knew the consequences for me personally, but the thought of my colleagues, their dashed hopes, and Mark's arrogant dismissal, pushed me forward. With a quiet click, I sent the email. The surprise was delivered. Then, I started to clear my desk. I methodically packed my personal belongings into a single box, my framed photos, my favorite coffee mug, a few cherished books. I deleted all personal files from my computer, logged out of everything, and left my company laptop and badge on the pristine surface. I didn't wait for the inevitable call. I simply walked out, feeling a strange mix of apprehension and profound relief. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my car. Texts, calls, emails, a torrent of messages from stunned colleagues, furious board members, and, predictably, a series of increasingly frantic demands from Mark himself. He tried to call, then sent an email, demanding I retract the libelous document, threatening legal action. I didn't respond to any of his messages. The journalists I'd included quickly replied, thanking me for the tip and confirming they were looking into it. Within hours, Nexus Innovations was in chaos. The board of directors immediately launched an internal investigation, putting Mark on administrative leave. Investors started making calls, demanding answers. The story quickly broke in the local tech press, citing unnamed sources and the damning evidence of the leaked document. The public backlash was swift and brutal. Mark Harrison, once lauded as an innovative CEO, was now being painted as a greedy, out-of-touch executive who exploited his workforce. The stock took a noticeable dip, and several key clients put projects on hold, citing uncertainty in leadership. A week later, the company announced that Mark Harrison had resigned to pursue other opportunities, a polite corporate euphemism for being forced out. More importantly, they announced that the annual performance bonuses would be paid out in full, immediately. The official statement cited a regrettable miscommunication regarding financial priorities and a renewed commitment to employee well-being. My colleagues, still reeling, were ecstatic. Sarah could get her son's braces. Michael could finally get his new car. They didn't know it was me who sent the email, not officially, but the quiet nods and grateful smiles I received in the days that followed spoke volumes. I was technically fired, of course, but the HR email was surprisingly mild, citing breach of company policy regarding internal communications. I didn't mind. I had already received several inquiries from recruiters, impressed by my integrity and courage. I even got an offer from a competitor, a company known for its ethical leadership, and I accepted it. I often think about Mark Harrison and his expensive fountain pen. The one he tapped against the microphone that day, the one he used to sign off on the bonus delay, prioritizing his third home over his employees' livelihoods. I imagine it sitting on his desk now, in one of his many homes, perhaps no longer used to sign off on anything of consequence. I am no longer part of that family, but I sleep soundly, knowing I chose to do what was right.